A boy Rimuru is reincarnated as a powerful slime in a fantasy world. With newfound abilities, he embarks on a journey, befriends various creatures, and builds a diverse community, aiming to create a peaceful and inclusive society. In modern-day Tokyo, Nakami Satoru, an ordinary young man who hasn't had much luck in life, finds himself in an unexpected situation. One day, after a chance encounter with his colleague's fiancée, he gets attacked by a crazed assailant. In a desperate attempt to save his colleague, Satoru sacrifices himself and ends up fatally wounded. However, his story doesn't end there. As he faces the brink of death, an enigmatic voice in his head responds to his desperate wishes. This mysterious voice grants him a series of unusual resistances and abilities. Despite his confusion and delirium, due to excessive blood loss, Satoru starts to comprehend his newfound skills. Firstly, he discovers that he's resistant to heat, cold physical damage, and even pain. In his delirium, he expresses regret over dying a virgin and wishes for a more assertive approach towards relationships in his next life. Remarkably, the voice responds by granting him a skill called Predator, enabling him to absorb skills and mimic appearances. Moreover, Satoru, in his dying moments, imagines himself as a great sage. To his surprise, the voice responds yet again, granting him the skill of a great sage. This unique ability fills him with knowledge and wisdom beyond his imagination. As Satoru succumbs to his injuries, he anticipates his demise. However, his story takes an unexpected turn. He awakens in a completely different world, devoid of familiarity. This new realm is filled with magic, mythical creatures, and wonders he could never have imagined. In this unfamiliar world, Satoru realizes that he has been reincarnated as a slime. Initially disheartened by his slimy form, he quickly adapts to his newfound abilities. He discovers that his body is formless, elastic, and capable of absorbing and analyzing various substances. Additionally, he learns about his limitless stomach, a part of his unique skill Predator, which allows him to consume anything and absorb its skills. With the help of the voice, which he affectionately names Matt, Satoru navigates his new existence. He experiments with his abilities, including mimicking the appearance of objects and absorbing their skills. Through his interactions with Matt, he gains knowledge about magical herbs and potions, such as the hippocute herb used in healing potions. Curious and eager to understand his magical surroundings, Satoru, in a childlike manner, asks Matt to explain the concept of magic as if he were explaining it to a 5-year-old. Thus, his journey in this fantastical world begins. During its exploration, it stumbles upon a valuable glowing rock called the Magistone ore, which it greedily devours. In the midst of its eating frenzy, the slime loses balance and falls into a lake. To its surprise, it discovers that slimes can't float. However, quick thinking helps it utilize water as a jet stream, propelling itself forward. This improvisation leads to the acquisition of a skill that enables it to control its movements in this way. During its jet-propelled exploration, the slime inadvertently collides with an invisible barrier. Although it feels the impact, there's no pain, thanks to its newfound pain nullification ability. Suddenly, a deep voice addresses the slime as little one. Perplexed, the slime realizes it can somehow hear the voice, but lacking a mouth, it can't respond verbally. Strangely, the voice can read the slime's thoughts. The mysterious stranger, who turns out to be a formidable storm dragon named Veldora, strikes a deal with the slime. Veldora offers to grant the slime sight, allowing it to see the world around. However, there are 2 conditions. The slime must not fear Veldora and should engage in frequent conversations. Intrigued by the offer, the slime agrees. With the newfound ability to sense magic in the air, the slime gains vision and explores its surroundings. Upon seeing its own reflection in the lake, it realizes it has transformed into an Irela slime. Returning to Veldora, the slime is met with an awe-inspiring sight, a majestic dragon, one of the rare true dragons in this world. Veldora expresses curiosity about the slime's self-awareness and exceptional abilities, pondering if it is a unique being with extraordinary powers. The adventure of the slime, now with the name Irela, and the enigmatic dragon Veldora begins in this magical realm. In a heartfelt exchange, our hero, now known as Rimuru, shares his reincarnation story with the ancient dragon. The novel recounts a tragic event from his past when he inadvertently destroyed a city. A hero, blessed with divine power, defeated him and bound him with a powerful skill called unlimited imprisonment. This hero was summoned, their soul engraved with a curse to prevent defiance against the summoner. Rimuru sympathizes with Viel's loneliness and proposes friendship. Despite initial hesitations and blushing, Viel agrees, and they become unlikely friends. Realizing Viel's magical power is dwindling, Rimuru resolves to help him escape his imprisonment. They formulate a plan. Rimuru will analyze the prison from the outside using his skill Predator, while Viel attempts to break it from within. Rimuru suggests Viel enter his stomach to maintain his existence during the process, creating a unique partnership. Before they proceed, Viel proposes giving each other names as a sign of their bond. Rimuru, inspired by Viel's stormy nature, names him Tempest, In return, Rimuru becomes Rimuru Tempest. With newfound determination, Rimuru initiates the plan. He engulfs the prison and tasks Alexa, the voice within him, with analyzing it. As the catastrophe-class monster Veal disappears from the Great Forest of Europe, where several countries coexist, Rimuru remains unaware of the chaos spreading due to his friend's sudden disappearance. Their friendship and the impending rescue mission mark the beginning of their intertwined destinies in this magical realm. Amidst his exploration of the cave, Rimuru ventured further, devouring ores and plants and storing them within his belly. His experiments with water led him to acquire skills like swimming and using water as a blade. Through his playful antics, he stumbled upon an unexpected revelation. His water-related skills fused into a powerful extra skill, embracing the philosophy of fool around and find out. Days later, he encountered his first living creature besides Vel, a monster known as the Black Serpent. Despite initial fear, Rimuru swiftly dispatched it with a single strike of his water blade. Consuming the serpent, he gained its skills and the ability to mimic its form. Rimuru embarked on a hunt for more, battling creatures like armored lizards, evil centipedes, and black spiders. Each conquest bestowed upon him new skills, such as using sticky threads and steel threads akin to Spider-Man's abilities, and the capability to employ ultrasonic waves, enabling him to speak. After weeks of wandering the cave, Rimuru finally discovered a massive wooden door, marking the exit. As it opened unexpectedly, he witnessed three adventurers entering. Hiding behind a rock, Rimuru overheard their conversation, learning they were investigating the increased monster activity following Vel's disappearance. Choosing not to communicate with them for fear of violence, he let them pass and ventured outside. In the forest, Rimuru contemplated Vel's absence and the need for interesting stories to share upon his return. His musings were interrupted when a group of goblins, armed and frightened, approached him. They mistook him for a powerful entity, the Strong One, and pleaded for his help. They led him to their village, where he met the frail village elder and his son. The goblins revered Viel as a deity for keeping the monsters at bay, but since his disappearance, the village had fallen into chaos. The goblins shared their plight, detailing attacks by wolves led by a brave goblin who sacrificed himself to gather essential information. Rimuru realized there were only a handful of capable fighters among the goblins, facing a formidable wolf pack numbering in the dozens. Despite the villagers' poverty, Rimuru inquired about compensation for his assistance. The chief, with utmost sincerity, offered unwavering loyalty. Feeling a sense of responsibility and moved by their hope, Rimuru decided to stand alongside the goblins, vowing to protect them in the absence of his friend Veal. With determination and resolve, he embraced his newfound role, ready to face the challenges that lay ahead. Rimuru felt a pang of guilt, thinking he hadn't put enough effort into naming the goblins individually. However, Chief Rigard reassured him, expressing contentment with naming all the goblins at once. Ignorant of the consequences, Rimuru proceeded to name the goblins, completing the task. Next in line were the wolves. Starting with the boss's son, Rangao, Rimuru named him, observing the wagging tails, signifying the wolves bore no grudge against him. But as Rimuru named the wolves, he lost control of his body, his vision blurring. Naming monsters had a steep magical cost, a fact Rigard failed to mention, leading to Rimuru hitting his limit. He entered sleep mode to recover, waking up 3 days later to the sight of an alluring goblin girl. Confused, Rimuru inquired about her identity, but she left to fetch Rigard. To Rimuru's shock, Rigard had transformed into a tall, muscular goblin. Rigard explained that naming monsters increased their rank and led to evolution. Suddenly, Ranga, the boss's son, stormed in, now a unicorn dog with storm-brewing abilities. Going outside, Rimuru discovered that the goblins had evolved into hobgoblins males and gobliners females. Moreover, all the wolves had evolved due to their connection, becoming Tempest wolves. Taking charge of the village, Rimuru established 3 crucial rules: no attacking humans, no infighting, and no belittling other races. The first rule, in particular, was vital, given the potential retaliation from humans' larger groups. Delegating responsibilities, Rimuru appointed Rigard as the Goblin Lord, moving him to tears with this announcement. The village's fate was now in Rimuru's capable hands. Then, they went to meet Dworgen, the master blacksmith, lacking the necessary raw material. Magisto or faced the risk of losing his license if he couldn't deliver the swords. Rimuru realized that the Magistoner he had consumed in the cave was exactly what they needed. He chuckled, regurgitating the refined magic steel and advised Kaijin to use it. The dwarf, astounded, inquired about the price of this precious resource. Rimuru, in exchange, simply requested that skilled artisans be sent to their village to teach important skills. With this agreement, the dwarves got to work, still having to make an additional 50 swords. However, Rimuru had a brilliant idea. He asked to examine one of the swords Kaijin had already made, a magnificent blade capable of reflecting a user's magic affinity. Rimuru devoured it and tasked Alexa with analyzing it. Utilizing the minerals in his stomach, he mass-produced copies of the sword, creating duplicates just like students copying their assignments in college. This ingenious move solved Kaijin's problem. In appreciation, the dwarves threw a grand party, especially for Rimuru, who had done all the hard work. At the bar, mesmerized by the beautiful elves, Rimuru enjoyed their attention, and his happiness knew no bounds. However, the evening took an unexpected turn when a party pooper named Vesta, the same minister who had given Kaijin the impossible order, arrived. Vesta taunted Kaijin and questioned why they allowed a lowly slime in their establishment. An argument ensued, leading to a physical altercation between Vesta and Kaijin, leaving Vesta unconscious. Rimuru worried about the consequences, fearing Kaijin might be exiled. To everyone's surprise, including Rimuru's Kaijin's brother, who was also a guard, arrested him. The brother seemed unusually nonchalant about the situation, leaving Rimuru perplexed as they were taken to jail, unaware of the significant consequences their actions would have. Gata was still in the depths of slumber, challenging the world record for the longest nap. Meanwhile, Kaijin and his allies were set to face trial. Kaijin, surprisingly calm, joked about their inevitable freedom from the fines. He shared a bitter history with Karen, the malevolent figure orchestrating this entire ordeal. Karen had once served as his deputy, but jealousy led him to undermine Kaijin, blaming him for his own failures and forcing him to resign. Despite this, Kaijin held no grudges and signed a verbal contract with Rimuru. Rimuru, gaining support, had an ever-growing team from his encounters in Dworgen. During the trial, Kaijin and his cronies were assigned a public attorney, but Karen had already corrupted him. Rimuru cynically noted their situation resembled a scene from Better Call Saul. The judge, the heroic dwarf king Gazelle Dwargo, sentenced them to forced labor in the mines. However, Gazelle respected Kaijin, offering him a chance to return to his former position. Kaijin, bound by his contract, respectfully declined. The king, understanding his resolve, altered the sentence. Kaijin and his comrades were exiled, leaving both a sense of justice and sadness in Gazelle. Returning to the goblin village, Rimuru realized it had grown significantly. Kaijin and his crew, now part of the village, began development projects. Additionally, more goblins had gathered, seeking protection from stronger species. Rimuru, feeling a sense of responsibility, took them in, providing refuge and names for all. In the meantime, Gata became a teacher, mastering the art of summoning wolves from shadows. However, peace was disrupted when intruders entered the village, initially suspected to be scouts from a powerful nation. Among them was a masked woman, an adept warrior with both swordsmanship and fire magic. Rimuru intervened just in time, saving her from an attacking ant monster using his newly developed skill, Black Lightning. As her mask fell, he discovered she was the woman he had seen in the crystal ball, Shizu, his soulmate, a warrior with her unique way of doing things. The adventurers found themselves initially bewildered by a talking slime as they ventured into his village. The goblin chief played the gracious host, but the revelation that Rimuru was the master of the goblins startled them. Amidst introductions, Shizu caught a subtle joke referencing the real world, shared only between her and Rimuru. Grateful for the information, Rimuru learned from Joe, the warrior, about the nearby kingdom of Blumen's concerns over Veldora's disappearance, prompting their investigation in the forest of Jura. During the evening, as guests of Riggert's hospitality, Rimuru seized the opportunity to have a heartfelt conversation with Shizu. There, he discovered her origin in Japan and her summoning during World War II while escaping air bombings with her mother. Rimuru attempted to cheer her up by showcasing Japan's post-war development through thought communication. However, their moment was cut short when Shizu experienced another episode. Kaijin, interrupting their conversation, led Rimuru away for an urgent consultation. The following morning, Rimuru found Shizu at the same spot, preparing to leave. He extended an invitation for her to stay, but Shizu explained her purpose. She needed to find the person who summoned her and seek answers. As they bid farewell, the adventurers and villagers observed a strange transformation in Shizu. Intense pain overtook her, causing her mask to crack and revealing her true identity. Shizu Izawa, the renowned conqueror of flames. To everyone's horror, Shizu's uncontrollable power manifested in a burst of flames, signifying that she was no longer in command of her abilities. Rimuru swiftly ordered Rigger and the goblins to evacuate the villagers. Shizu's mask finally fell. She transformed into Ifrit, the greater fire spirit. The adventurers braced themselves for what seemed like their inevitable demise. Ifrit summoned 3 flying salamanders, which raised the village Rimuru and his friends had painstakingly built. Despite the peril, the adventurers stood resolute, prepared to risk their lives to save their friend and the legendary hero Shizu from the spirit's possession. Rimuru attempted to communicate with Ifrit, seeking understanding, but the fiery entity responded with aggression, launching an attack. When Rimuru tried to counter with his water blade, it evaporated before reaching Ifrit, highlighting the spirit's overwhelming power. In the midst of the battle, Rimuru summoned Ranga and devised a plan to deal with the remaining salamanders. Recognizing that Erin's icicle lance was effective against the spirits, Rimuru instructed her to shoot an icicle at him. After devouring and analyzing the icicle, Rimuru gained the ability to use it. With this newfound power, he incorporated the attack into an icicle shotgun, swiftly dispatching the 2 remaining salamanders. The last salamander resorted to a desperate act, detonating itself in a suicide attack. Joe valiantly shielded his friends from the explosion, leaving them incapacitated. Rimuru, now alone with Ifrit, prepared for a fierce battle. Ifrit conjured flame clones and surrounded Rimuru with a lava field. Rimuru countered the clones with an icicle shotgun, but fell into Ifrit's trap, who unleashed the powerful attack flare circle. In that moment of panic, Rimuru realized that he felt no pain and questioned Alexa. She revealed that Rimuru had temperature fluctuation resistance, rendering him immune to fire attacks. With this newfound confidence, Rimuru prepared to face Ifrit head-on. With the tables now turned, Rimuru skillfully ensnares Ifrit using his magically fireproof steel threads, taunting the fire spirit for underestimating him. All of Ifrit's attacks prove futile against Rimuru, who decides to end the battle once and for all by employing his unique skill, Predator. He swallows Ifrit whole, effectively separating the spirit from Shizu. Inside Rimuru's belly, Ifrit is terrified, anticipating his next opponent VL, who desires to challenge him. Besides Shizu, who has grown weak after the earlier events, Rimuru listens as she expresses her gratitude for saving her and preventing her from harming the one she cared about. She decides to share her story, hoping that people will remember how she lived. Shizu begins her tale from the day her village was engulfed in flames. As she fled with her mother, the fire suddenly surrounded her, transporting her in front of the demon lord Leon, a ruthless and cold-hearted man. Believing she had an affinity for fire due to her survival despite severe burns, Leon summoned Ifrit, who possessed Shizu's body. Leon tested his new weapon by commanding Ifrit to burn a birdman who had foolishly challenged him, impressing the demon lord. Shizu became Leon's loyal aide, and life in the demon lord's residence was relatively stable. She had a friend, a fellow summon, with whom she adopted a golden fox cub. However, tragedy struck when her friend brought the fox pup into the residence, causing Ifrit to perceive it as a threat. In a moment of possession, Ifrit turned both the pup and her friend into ashes, traumatizing Shizu deeply. She became a schoolteacher in the Kingdom of Ingrasia, teaching children from different worlds. Her students flourished, some even becoming grandmasters. And as she watched them establish themselves, Shizu decided it was time to embark on her final journey, to find the man who had summoned her and seek answers. During her adventures, she encountered Rimuru, a kind-hearted slime, and they exchanged their real names. With her strength waning, Shizu made a heartfelt request, to be consumed by Rimuru, much like he had consumed her curse. She wanted to rest inside his stomach, escaping the world she didn't belong to, without harboring any hatred for it. Rimuru, moved by her request, agreed to fulfill her final wish. Shizu revealed that she had hoped to gain recognition from Leon Cromwell, a powerful demon lord, acknowledging her humanity. Additionally, she wanted to find a way to send the children summoned to this world back to their own. As her strength continued to fade, Rimuru promised to seek these answers from Leon. Grateful for his assurance, Shizu peacefully passed away. Using his unique skill as a predator, Rimuru devoured Shizu's soul, granting her eternal peace inside his stomach. In her dreams, she reunited with her mother, living happily in her own world once again. The adventure party, along with Rigurd and Ranga, discovered Rimuru in Shizu's form. Although initially shocked, Rimuru explained the situation, revealing Shizu's final wishes. Touched by Shizu's sacrifice and thinking of their reckless actions, the party members consoled each other, dispelling the sadness that hung in the air. Eventually, they decided to leave, promising to speak highly of the place where they had encountered such a remarkable and compassionate being. Before their departure, the adventurers wanted Rimuru to transform back into his human form so they could express their gratitude to Shizu through him. Rimuru agreed and assumed his human form. He also noticed that their gear was rather shoddy, so he decided to give them a farewell gift. The adventurers were overjoyed to receive high-quality armor. To their delight, they discovered that the world-famous three dwarf brothers and the legendary blacksmith, Kejun, had crafted the armor. With the farewell complete, the adventurers headed back to their guild. Rimuru paid his final respects to Shizu, vowing to find Leon and seek answers to her questions. He knew he had much to learn about this world's power structure, while simultaneously developing his village and growing stronger, especially after the damage incurred during the battle with the fire spirit Ifrit. Back in the village, the goblins resumed their development efforts. Kejun and the three dwarf brothers collaborated with the goblins to build houses, create clothing, and attend to other essential needs. Rigurd and the goblin lords worked out a governance plan for the village, and Rimuru was content to observe his underlings' competence in managing their responsibilities. Alone in his home, Rimuru retrieved the mask that Shizu had worn and repaired it. He promised to keep it safe and then, with a mischievous grin, decided to transform into his human body using the mimic skill. As he took on the appearance of the blue-haired version of Shizu, Rimuru tested his control over the new body and confirmed that his senses were working correctly. Although he appreciated having a human form, Rimuru couldn't help but think that being a slime felt more comfortable. Curiosity led him to ask Alexa if he could use the cloning skill after consuming Ifrit. Alexa confirmed that he could use all of the fire spirit's skills. Rimuru promptly summoned a clone of himself and was surprised to see that it looked exactly like Shizu. As he marveled at his appearance, Rimuru realized that he was completely genderless, which was expected given his previous state as a slime. He accepted this revelation and, while dressing, asked Alexa about the black smoke produced when he created the clone. Alexa explained that it resulted from using magic to create something larger than one's size. This sparked an idea in Rimuru's mind, and he decided to create an adult version of himself. He found that he would look like a handsome man when he grew up. Experimenting with his appearance, he tried to make it both masculine and feminine but stopped short of seeing anything explicit. Despite being a virgin for many years, Rimuru still had control over himself. Rigor interrupted their conversation to provide a report. During their discussion, Rimuru realized that, as a human, he could now taste and enjoy delicious food, an experience he hadn't had since his reincarnation. With a newfound appreciation for food, Rimuru couldn't help but think about the menu as he toured the village. He instructed Gata to hunt some tasty animals for their meal, but the curious Gata couldn't help but ask if Rimuru's chest would also get bigger if he ate a lot. Rimuru playfully responded with a roundhouse kick, sending Gata flying. Rigor promised to discipline Gata later, but Gata explained that wild beasts had been coming into their area frequently due to seasonal migration. Rimuru had his doubts about this explanation and decided to send Ranga along with a hunting party for extra support. Meanwhile, Rimuru ventured to the cave where his friend Veldora was once imprisoned to test a skill he acquired by devouring Shizu. This skill, called Degenerate, allowed him to combine or disintegrate different skills. He gained an additional skill called Black Flame, which seemed powerful. Additionally, the mask Shizu left behind had the power to suppress magic, making Rimuru appear human to others. However, his focus was abruptly interrupted by a telepathic message from Ranga, indicating an emergency. Rushing to the scene, Rimuru found Gata under attack by two ogres, one red and one white, with the rest of the goblins and wolves lying unconscious on the ground. These ogres were a sophisticated species, armed with Japanese swords. As Rimuru approached, he was blocked by a pink-clad magic user, and Rigor was engaged in combat with another woman. Rimuru attempted to reason with the ogress, but they accused him of being a demon and attacked. The situation escalated as the ogress called him a demon and accused him of being involved in an attack on their village. Rimuru tried to explain, but suddenly, the old swordsman launched a sneak attack, slashing Rimuru's arm. To everyone's surprise, Rimuru calmly absorbed his severed hand, instantly regenerating it. This display of power shocked the ogres, but they remained defiant. In an attempt to intimidate them, Rimuru removed his mask, revealing his true form. He released a terrifying aura and demonstrated his new skill, Black Flame, engulfing the area in a tornado of black flames. The ogres were stunned by the sheer magnitude of Rimuru's power. Red, the ogress leader, was forced to acknowledge Rimuru's strength but remained determined to fight. The situation grew more complex as Rimuru unveiled his skill Black Lightning, showcasing his dominance. However, Red's sister, Pink, intervened, questioning their assumptions and suggesting they might be wrong about Rimuru. After some discussion, Red finally asked Rimuru who he was. Rimuru revealed his true form, transforming back into a slime. The ogres realized their mistake and apologized to Rimuru. To make amends, Rimuru invited them to their village's feast that night. Returning to the village with the ogres and the goblins, Rimuru asked Red for his name. Red explained that none of them had names. The feast began, and Rimuru tasted food for the first time since arriving in this world. He was immensely pleased, and in that moment, he felt that life was finally worth living. As everyone enjoyed the feast, Rigord and Kajun listened to the ogress' sad story. The ogres recounted being attacked by an army of orcs and a powerful masked demon, leading to their village being set ablaze. The evening was filled with shared stories and newfound understanding between the ogres and the residents of Rimuru's village. Rimuru regained consciousness, finding himself in the company of his newfound allies, Rigor, Gata, and others from the hunting party. He inquired about the sudden unconsciousness, only to learn from Alexa that it was due to the immense magic consumption involved in naming the ogres. Among the ogres, Rimuru recognized Ben, now smaller but considerably more powerful, along with Shuna, the over-princess, who had become even more charming. Holding Rimuru was Cheyenne, the ogre woman whose personality had already endeared her to him. Hakuru, the old white man who had severed Rimuru's hand, looked younger now. Another figure present was Su, the assassin who seemed to be in charge of training the young goblins in swordsmanship. Rimuru observed Hakuru diligently coaching the goblins, spurred by Gata's eagerness to learn swordsmanship. Ben shared insights about the recent orc attack on their village. Suspecting the involvement of an orc lord, a rare and formidable leader among the orcs. Ben also mentioned encountering a suspicious demon named Gelmud who tried to offer him a name, but Ben declined, suspecting a scam. Sui emerged from the shadows, bringing news of lizardmen spotted negotiating with the nearby goblin village. He warned that they might approach Rimuru's village as well. Meanwhile, Shumain, the dwarf, explained the process of making silk from helmets to the dwarf brothers, Shin and the others, inside their workshop. In the midst of these discussions, Shan entered, carrying Rimuru with her and declaring herself as his secretary. This announcement, while amusing, created a humorous yet slightly tense atmosphere, especially between the dwarf brothers, both vying for Rimuru's attention. The situation was observed by Garam and his brothers, who found themselves bemused by the human-like dynamics of affection and rivalry among different species. Eventually, Cheyenne led Rimuru to the dining hall, where delicious dinner awaited them, prepared by her. The aroma filled the air, setting the stage for a meal shared among the diverse residents of the village. Past traumas haunt their thoughts, and Sue hastily retreats. Rimuru notices Ben's nervousness and wonders if she lacks culinary skills despite her capable appearance. He asks Alexa for guidance. She instructs him to close his eyes and thrust the spoon to his right if he wishes to survive. Following her advice blindly, he inadvertently feeds the spoonful to the unfortunate goblin, Gata, who chokes, turns purple, and collapses. A moment of silence for the fallen goblin. Rimuru sternly instructs Cheyenne that next time, her food must be tasted and approved by Ben before serving, hoping to avoid further casualties like Gupta. Imagining the renowned chef Gordon Ramsay's reaction to Cheyenne's cooking brings a smirk to Rimuru's lips. Moving on, Rimuru checks on Kaijin and his apprentice, the dwarf Kaijun. Their conversation is too engrossing for him to interrupt, but he is saved by the arrival of Rigurd. Rigurd informs Rimuru about an envoy from the Lizardman tribe, prompting Rimuru, accompanied by his evolved ogre subordinates, to meet them. Outside the village, the Lizardmen perform their military routine, heralding the arrival of their leader, Gabiru, a proud and flamboyant young lizardman. Gabiru delivers a boastful speech, claiming the goblins will now serve under him. Irritated, Rimuru squeezes Gabiru, trying to contain his annoyance. Despite his protests, Gabiru continues, expressing his intention to protect the weaker creatures from the looming orc threat. As Gabiru eyes Rigurd and the two striking ogres, his attention is captivated by the voluptuous Chien. Ben seeks Rimuru's approval to deal with the foolish lizardman, but Rimuru restrains him. Rimuru explains that the goblins tame the direwolves and summons Ranga to show the truth to Gabiru. Ranga, in his true intimidating form, terrifies the lizardmen. Gabiru, surprisingly unfazed, compliments Ranga's beautiful eyes and soft fur, displaying unexpected courage. He admires the magnificent wolf before him, but laments its fate as a slave to a cunning slime. Declaring his intention to defeat the clever slime and liberate the wolf, his followers cheer him on. Meanwhile, Ranga, infuriated by the lizard's disrespect toward his master, Gupta unexpectedly arrives. Surprising everyone, Gupta reveals that he survived. Upon analyzing Gupta, Alexa informs Rimuru that Gupta gained the poison resistance skill to counteract Cheyenne's cooking. Gabiru, overconfident, taunts Rimuru, who challenges Gabiru to give his all. If Gabiru wins, he receives a custom-made weapon. If he loses, he must endure Cheyenne's cooking. Gupta, motivated by fear of Cheyenne's cooking, launches his spear at Gabiru. Evading the attack, Gabiru counterattacks, but Gata vanishes. Confused, Gabiru is taken by surprise as Gata emerges from a shadow, swiftly knocking him out. While others treat Gata like a champion, Rimuru, secretly impressed, pretends he expected this outcome. The lizardmen are stunned, and Rimuru informs them that they won't serve under anyone, but are willing to aid them against the orcs. The lizardmen flee in humiliation, vowing to return. However, their celebration is cut short as Sue reports an approaching orc army. Rimuru estimates they'll attack the lizardmen's territory soon. Concerned, Rimuru discusses the situation with his subordinates. Kaijun suggests the possibility of a demon lord manipulating the orcs, and Rimuru suspects Gelmud, the demon who had issues with the ogres. As they ponder their options, Sue informs Rimuru of a dryad's request to meet him. Intrigued by the idea of meeting a mythical dryad, Rimuru welcomes the 1,000-year-old forest spirit named Trey. She politely requests Rimuru's help to defeat the orc lord. Ben questions her intentions, and Trey explains that the dryads lack the means to defend against the orc lord's threat. Although Rimuru hesitates, Trey understands his need for consideration. As the discussion unfolds, Rigurd and Kaijun anxiously sit beside the graceful dryad. During the meeting, Rimuru inquired about the orcs' motives, prompting Shona to reveal Sue's findings from his investigation of the orc village. Sue reported a gruesome truth. Not a single ogre or corpse was found. The reason behind this was the unique skill of the orc lord, Starved. This skill compelled the orcs under the lord's command to devour everything, including their fallen comrades, granting them strength and abilities from their consumed prey. The orcs, always hungry due to the skill's side effect, mindlessly destroyed ecosystems, ravaging everything in their path. realizing that the orcs were driven by insatiable hunger and a thirst for power, not just dominance. Rimuru understood the threat posed to his village. Hobgoblins, Cajuns, and Tempest Wolves in his community were potential meals for these power-hungry orcs. Trade then disclosed that a certain demon, working under a demon lord, was aiding the orcs. This revelation piqued Rimuru's interest, making him consider taking action against the orc lord. Uncertain of his decision, Rimuru consulted with Alexa, who affirmed the trustworthiness of the Dryads, considering their role as forest guardians. Cheyenne, expressing her confidence in Rimuru's victory, embraced him, further reinforcing his determination. Despite his outward confidence, Rimuru felt nervous about the upcoming battle, contemplating the consequences of failure. He proposed forming an alliance with the Lizardmen, seeing their expertise in marshland combat. Su, representing Rimuru, sought permission to negotiate with the Lizardman chief. Rimuru hesitated briefly about his feelings towards Su's confidence, but he composed himself and authorized Su's plan. The battle was slated for the marshlands, making cooperation with the Lizardmen crucial. As Su departed, Rimuru hoped for a sensible leader among the Lizardmen. Fortunately, the chief of the Lizardmen turned out to be a wise, charismatic leader named Gabe, accompanied by his daughter, the captain of the Royal Guards. Su arrived at the Lizardmen's territory, respected by their chief for his strength and peaceful intentions. He conveyed a message from Rimuru, explaining Tempest's plan to defeat the Orc Lord at the Dryad's request. Despite the chief taking Su seriously, one of the guards insulted Rimuru, prompting Su to be ready for action. However, the chief diffused the situation and agreed to the alliance, setting a meeting with Rimuru in a week and requesting they hold off attacking the orcs until then. However, back in the Lizardmen's home, Gabe, influenced by a demon named Laplace, seized power from his father, the former chief, and declared war on the orcs without comprehending the Orc Lord's true power. Rimuru and his team, including Banhaku, Cheyenne, Su, Ranga, and the Goblin Riders with Gata as their captain, rode to the marshlands to aid the Lizardmen in the battle. Su spotted the chief's guard captain fighting orcs and received permission from Rimuru to assist. Upon arrival, they found all the orcs dead, and Su was tending to a seriously injured lizard woman. Rimuru healed her injuries with his magic potions. The lizard woman introduced herself and pleaded for help, revealing Gabe's ill-informed rebellion and the dire situation with the orcs. Cheyenne, recognizing the potential alliance, accepted the job request on Rimuru's behalf, taking charge as his representative. Rimuru acknowledged the Lizard Chief's daughter as his official representative and promptly formed an alliance. He instructed Su to rescue the Lizardman chief and rode off with his soldiers to the battlefield, where Gabe surprisingly demonstrated effective leadership using guerrilla warfare tactics in the marshlands. The Lizardmen ambushed the orcs. However, the battle took a grim turn when the orcs started consuming their fallen comrades, increasing their strength. Despite Gabe's attempts to retreat, they found themselves surrounded by the relentless orcs. The orcs surged forward with astonishing speed, their transformed bodies now adorned with webbed feet and lizard-like scales, a result of consuming a lizard soldier. Gabe, the lizard chief, recognized the dire situation and took charge, ordering his army to maintain a close formation with the allied goblins in the center. Gabe bravely stepped forward, challenging the armored figure, believing him to be the Orc Lord. However, the orc calmly stated he was just a general still far inferior to the Orc Lord in strength, but the general's skills far surpassed his own. Just as Gabe was about to meet his end, Gabda intervened, saving the lizard chief and surprising Gabe, who couldn't fathom being defeated by a mere hobgoblin. Meanwhile, on Rimuru's orders, Ranga, Ben, Haku, Xian, and Su joined the fray. Ben wreaked havoc upon the orcs, seeking vengeance for the destruction of his village. Haku elegantly sliced through orc hordes, while Xian's sword strikes created canyons on the battlefield. Rimuru marveled at the power of his companions, considering their partnership an invaluable advantage. Su, having completed his mission, not only rescued the lizard chief, but also dispatched orcs with such finesse that even the lizardmen were left in awe. Su even threatened the man behind the orcs through a crystal ball, promising his demise after dealing with the orcs' pig servants. With most of the orcs annihilated, the Orc Lord, identified by Rimuru from a distance, emerged as the final challenge. The massive Orc Lord, equal in size to the generals, declared his hunger, prompting Rimuru to don his magic-suppressing mask, ready to confront this formidable foe. However, before Rimuru could act, a projectile hurtled toward him. He swiftly dodged it, realizing it wasn't a missile but a person, the frustrated demon Gelmud, clad in a shabby plague doctor mask, reminiscent of an exasperated elementary school teacher dealing with unruly students. Furious at Rimuru and his companions for disrupting his plans to create a new demon lord, Gelmud unleashed his frustration. He had spent considerable time maiming monsters in the forest, intending to turn them into pawns for his sinister purpose. Gelmud's sinister intentions came to light, leaving Kejun and the others seething with anger. However, before they could retaliate, Gabe, the lizard chief, recognized Gelmud, whom he assumed was there to aid them. Yet, Gelmud's scornful words shattered Gabe's illusion, branding him an idiot. The demon urged the Orc Lord to devour everyone. Rimuru, sensing the impending danger, stepped in to shield Gabe and his comrades from Gelmud's attack. using his predator's skill to neutralize the threat. Gabe, now aware of Rimuru's true identity, received healing potions to aid his injured friends. Determined to stop Gelmud, Rimuru confronted the masked demon, binding him with steel threads. He struck Gelmud multiple times, demanding the identity of his boss. Gelmud, unable to respond, sought refuge with the Orc Lord, begging for assistance. Calling the Orc Lord by his name, Gelmud implored him to help. However, in an unexpected turn, Geld devoured Gelmud instead, transforming into a demon lord, fulfilling Gelmud's twisted plan. Witnessing the transformation, Rimuru knew he couldn't stand idle. The Kijin, sensing the urgency, attacked Geld. Shine served as a distraction, allowing Haku to aim for the Orc Lord's head. Despite their efforts, Geld attached his severed head, displaying incredible regenerative abilities. The battle continued, with the Kijin Su, Ben, and Ranga launching powerful assaults, yet Geld remained resilient. In the midst of the battle, Geld's general sacrificed himself, providing the Orc Lord with more power. Unyielding, Geld attacked relentlessly, forcing Rimuru and his subordinates into a defensive position. However, Rimuru, refusing to succumb, absorbed Geld's attacks, nullifying his offensive onslaughts. Determined to turn the tide, Rimuru ordered his companions to stand back and initiated a fierce confrontation with Geld. With Alexa's assistance, Rimuru deftly countered Geld's attacks, eventually cornering him. Despite Geld's immunity to fire attacks, Rimuru devised a strategy. Alexa skillfully manipulated Geld's movements, inflicting wounds with black flames. When Geld regenerated, Rimuru countered by using Ifrit's Flare Circle, causing damage. Despite Geld's resistance, Rimuru faced him head-on, acknowledging him as a formidable adversary. Geld, despite his impending fate, laughed defiantly, claiming there was nothing Rimuru could do to stop him from being consumed. Rimuru, revealing his true nature as a slime, enveloped Geld's body, challenging him to an eating contest. It became a fierce battle between Rimuru's predatory abilities and the Orc's potent healing powers. Onlookers watched in awe at Rimuru's unique skill. Predator clashed with the Orc's ability to heal. As Rimuru consumed him, he glimpsed Geld's memories. Despite Geld's resistance, Rimuru overpowered him, devouring his sins and the burden he carried for his people. In the final moments, Geld wept, expressing gratitude to Rimuru for releasing him from his curse. As the Orc disaster's influence waned, Geld's people transformed back into normal Orcs. Their invasion halted. Cheers filled the air as everyone celebrated Rimuru's victory. Even the Orcs rejoiced, relieved that their king was freed from the curse. Rimuru, acknowledging the kitchen's freedom, offered them the choice to pursue their own paths. However, the devoted companions, deeply attached to their master, declared their unwavering loyalty, pledging to serve Rimuru until their last breath. This commitment was hailed as the greatest honor of their lives.